Welcome back to Analytical Media. We are a consortium of therapists, college professors, and well-published peer-reviewed authors. Today's question is this: can you explain the unconscious mind? So, allow me to give you an overview and explanation. We'll talk about it from a Freudian standpoint and then a Jungian standpoint. They were both psychoanalysts. They were both friends, by the way, sort of. Jung was younger than Freud. They had a great falling out at one point, and it was after Freud asked Jung to interpret a dream he had had. And Jung was very good at interpreting dreams. And Jung was well admired by Freud. Freud adored Jung, said the most glowing things about him. He wanted Jung to be his successor, to inherit the field of psychoanalysis. But they had a terrible falling out and never recovered from that later on. And it was more a father-son relationship, age-wise. But Jung was far wiser, far more adept, understandable, most of all. So there are, according to Freud, there are two parts to the mind: the unconscious mind and the conscious mind. Not that you need to know this or remember it, but he also talked about a structural hypothesis of the mind, which was id, ego, and superego. Now, what's interesting about this is that, according to psychoanalytic theory, you are both the ego, or if we're talking only two parts, the conscious or the unconscious, you are the conscious mind. In a structural hypothesis, the ego remains the conscious mind. So the person who is listening to this video, who is listening to my voice right now, that person is the conscious mind. We can skip Freud and move away from the term ego, and that's fine. Because one thing all psychoanalysts would agree with is that you are the conscious mind. At night, you go to sleep and you disappear for 8 hours. In the morning, you reappear. You come back. You begin to have thoughts. You begin to have feelings that weren't there during the night. You were gone. Where were you? You were unconscious. Just like during an operation, you were not there. If you were unconscious, you weren't there. And they do not give you pain medication during a surgery when they put you out fully, when you are fully unconscious. Because you can't feel pain, you're not there. When you wake up and you're in the recovery room, they will carefully begin to give you pain medication. But there's no need for it while you're unconscious. And you probably know that too if you've been in pain with a broken ankle or a bad headache. You know that when you went to sleep, the pain went away. And when you woke up, the pain came back. Hopefully it did not come back, but oftentimes it does. Because that's to be experienced by the conscious mind, and you are the conscious mind. According to Freud, and certainly Jung would concur, the conscious mind is small. You are small compared to the unconscious. And Freud gave the example of the iceberg. Because as you know, the iceberg is almost all underneath the surface of the water, and only the tip, at the very top of the iceberg, is above the water. 97 to 99% of the iceberg is under the water. And just a little tip is out in the sunshine and moonlight. And that's the relationship. You, the conscious mind, are that little tip of the iceberg. And everything below the waterline is unconscious. And does the unconscious mind have power? Well, it does. If we look at the defense mechanisms, the Freudian defense mechanism, we'll find out that the unconscious mind is so powerful that it has the ability to take away any memory from you, the conscious mind. You know, you may have been home and a neighbor lady came in and shot your mother with a shotgun, and you find yourself out on a sidewalk and the policeman says to you, "What happened?" You are covered with blood. There are bloody footprints coming from the home right down the sidewalk towards that police officer, your feet. And he says, "What happened?" And you say, "I don't know." "What happened?" And "Well, you have blood on you." "I know what happened. We better find out what happened. Maybe somebody got hurt. I don't know, maybe I'm hurt." But the trauma of seeing your mother killed was so devastating that the unconscious mind believed you could not handle it. So it removed the memory. You have no memory of it. Now, the memories may return years later, or they may return if you were to undergo hypnosis, or they may return in the form of nightmares where you're having a terrible dream. Somebody wakes you up and they say, "What were you dreaming about?" You were screaming, you're all sweaty, your tears are rolling down your face. "What happened?" You say, "Nothing happened. I didn't have a bad dream." That's the power of the unconscious mind. Beyond that, it has the power to make you blind. It has the power to make you paralyzed. It has the power to take away your ability to hear or your ability to speak. It does. We're not going to go through all the defense mechanisms. Maybe someday I'll make a video of that. If you're interested, let me know, and we'll talk about it. But the unconscious is very powerful. According to Jung, if we look at Jung now, the real you, the more perfect you, lives inside the unconscious mind. You, the conscious mind, are a version of that. You came from that. The real you, the untarnished, unadulterated you, is alive and well inside the unconscious mind. Now, for you to be happy in life, the flawed, adulterated, tarnished conscious mind must realign itself with the real you that lives in the unconscious mind. And in psychoanalytic terms, that's exactly what depression is. You know people who are depressed. Perhaps you've been depressed. Think about what that means. Depressed, pushed down. You depress the accelerator pedal. You depress the button to turn on a radio. What's that mean? It means you pushed it down. Well, depression in psychoanalytic terms means pushing you, the conscious mind, down into the unconscious mind, where you reevaluate yourself. So you have all those bad feelings, which are referred to as feelings of depression. You are pushed down into the unconscious so that you can retouch, join forces with the real you, the person that will be happy, will be good, will be whole. And there are, if we looked at Jungian terms, there is so very much more. There is individuation, which is the process of becoming more who you were meant to be. That is very similar to Maslow's self-actualization, which means making real the self. Self-actualization. Very, very similar to Jung's idea of individuation. And Jung has everything else. He has all the basic personality types. Jung gave us the word introvert, the idea of introvert, the idea of an extrovert. in archetypes, big idea archetypes, to help explain why we're attracted to certain things and disappointed in other things. It explains why Elvis Presley was so popular. It explains mythology. It explains successful novels today. It explains the appeal of comic books. Hopefully that's enough. But honestly, I've lectured on this in the classroom for thousands of hours. That's not an exaggeration. I could lecture on this for thousands of hours here. I'm certainly not going to do that unless, but I'll answer any question you want. And if it would turn out that you wanted thousands of hours, I would do that. It would depend, of course, on Analytical Media and what my friends and associates want, but I'm sure they would have no problem with me lecturing on that. So, on that note, and hopefully I haven't taken up too much of your time, on that note, I will join you again the next time I post. Okay, see you later. Bye.